Yes, welcome back, loony listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. You are with your High Priest, Rey. I am here. Unfortunately, man down. Had a couple of co-hosts lined up. Unfortunately, due to some scheduling issues, last-minute scheduling issues, fellow Lenny Josh Geronimo Johnson was going to join us. He can't make it. A little shout out to Josh. How are you? Hopefully we can get Josh on again. It was going to be early morning for Josh, and he's unfortunately had to do some work-related stuff. And the long-anticipated return of High Priest of Khonshu was going to make it, but unfortunately poor Khonshu up there in Toowoomba's had some problems with some technical difficulties, so best of luck there, Connor, my good sir. So you are with, yes, you guessed it, the High Priest of Khonshu Rey, and I'm here again to give you all the latest and the greatest. So welcome, loonies. Yes, this is a bumper episode tonight, although it is just, boring old Rey to give you the show, but we've got a few exciting things for tonight's show, so wanted to press on and to release it. I just can't wait. First up, I wanted to outline tonight is it is a LUNAR-PICK Classic Run review. So those of you who remember last week, I got the Phase of the Moon wrong. It was meant to be a classic run last week and a modern run this week, but we're swapping it around. So it's going to be a classic run. It's going to be a review this week of Doug Moench's Volume 1, Issue 11, To Catch a Killer. It's a one and done, so whether that's fortuitous or not, I'll be having a look at that. It should be pretty concise and pretty compact because it's just the one issue, but there's still plenty of stuff to talk about. Also, as well, loonies, patroonies, everyone involved. This may excite some, it may excite none. It has excited me because I have just so much fun doing it. We are releasing our monthly episode of our serial adventure, The Hunt for Khonshu's Golden Sceptre. That's a bit later on tonight. It's a big one. It's got the biggest cast that I've had to actually edit and pull together. I've had a lot of fun doing it. More on that later, but we have our February episode for that. Episode 9, which I have entitled The Man of the Stars. And of course we have some news, views, and truths. I'd like to say it. I'm all about the jingle. So yeah, just a couple of bits of news, and my views on some of the things that have come out, potentially Moon Knight related. Now, to kick off, as always, I wanted to give a big thank you to our gracious patroonies. Of course, you guys are listening to this one day ahead of everyone else, so a big welcome, a little greeting there before as well for those special patroonies. So thank you for sponsoring and basically co-producing our show. But I'd also like to mention we have a couple of sponsors for our show as well. Our regular sponsors, Hello Headphones, they sponsor this episode and this show, but also for this particular episode we have an additional sponsor, Podcorn, connecting unique voices to unique brands. So we are very happy to have Podcorn on as a sponsor for this episode. Anyway, also, loonies, let's get cracking. First up, I just want to do a spectacle. I want to do some shout-outs, a bit of housekeeping out of the way before we get into the meat of this episode. First off, you may have heard before, I am now co-hosting a monthly, end-of-the-month show on the Ultimate Spidercast, part of Capes and Lunatics Sidekicks, and they are fellow collective members. We do a spotlight on Scarlet Spider, so we'll be taking it from his origins all the way up to present day. It's going to be a massive journey. I love Scarlet Spider, literally because of that Damnation crossover that we did, and ITK, we ended up covering the Scarlet Spider tie-ins because there was no Moon Knight tie-ins. But yeah, I found him a very intriguing character, so I'll be an ongoing guest co-host for that at the end of every month. So we've already kickstarted with our first episode with fellow hosts Phil Filmune Perich and Matt Kona. Very capable, very funny fellows indeed. Also, as well, a little plug to my other podcast, Last Sons of Krypton. Why not? I'm here. It's a Superman podcast. One of our latest episodes dropped now. It was a review on Red Sun, which is a big, arguably one of the classic Superman story arcs, and we had Superman Red and Superman Blue, Tyler and James from the Krypton Report joining us for that. So that's just dropped recently as well. You can hear me there. So a couple of podcasts. You know, if you want more than Moon Knight, and if you somehow find my talking engaging, then you can catch those. But catch it for the other guys. They're really good, very fun stuff, very entertaining indeed. Other spectacles, I want to give a shout out to our TeePublic store. So I've been slowly releasing more and more designs there. I think we've got about 9 or 10 different designs there on the ITK store. You can go check it out. I've posted it up on our group and on the page as well. If you consider buying them, they will actually aid the funding of this show as well. A couple of cool designs there. A shout out to Randolph Benoit, who designed one of them, and of course Wayne O, a good friend and fellow loony as well. He's contributed some fantastic artwork there. So check it out and show your allegiance for Moon Knight and for ITK as well by considering buying a t-shirt or a mug, what have you. It's all over there on TeePublic. Links in our show notes as well. Also as well, I've actually included a t-shirt for The Hunt for Khonshu's Golden Sceptre as well. So if you like our serial drama, wear it with pride as well. Spread the word. Anyway, also loonies as well. This is going to be cool. I might potentially be opening up a can of worms here. Before I get into that, actually, a big shout out to the Signal of Doom, Dave Finn, and my other co-host from Last Sons of Krypton, Connor McKenna, rocking it as I rock it here. Solo, those guys are recording as well, so be sure to catch the Signal of Doom and Dave and Connor talking about anything and everything in geek culture. It should be fun. A lot of fun indeed. A big shout out to you, Dave. He said he'd give us a shout out on his show as well, so we're just working in tandem. Dave likes to call us the gods of the game. I just love podcasting, so I'll take it. Anyway, back to this other thing I was going to say, loonies. Okay, I've got something for you. So anyone who's been listening regularly, thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Really appreciate it, and I hope you love the content we deliver. I'm going to step it up a level here. Okay, so last week I was hosting a show with a special guest, Chad, the Power of Chad, and we were talking about the Bendis comic, and well, dag-nammit, there were errors aplenty from me. I do apologise. I'm very ashamed. I like to get my facts straight. I like to do some research, but every now and again things slip up and the wheels fall off the cart. And anyway, I'd just like to interrupt my ramble with a little something that I got from Phil. So he actually sent in a correction. This was with regards to the Bendis issue. Bendis was issue number 5, I believe. Anyway, I'll play this now, and thank you very much, Phil. He's ambushed the show again. Take it away, Phil.
Hello, fellow loonies. It's me, Phil Parrish from the Capes and Lunatics and the Capes and Lunatic Sidekicks podcast, here to hijack Ray's Into the Night again. I just wanted to drop in, with Ray's permission, of course. Hi, Ray. I wanted to drop in and say, hey, did everyone catch the, I don't want to say mistakes, but the little faux pas that Ray made last episode? Well, first of all, the biggest crime was Ray didn't know who Alison Blair was. Allison Blair. Come on. I can hear Noel. I can hear Josh. I can hear all of you. All of you loonies, you big Marvel fans screaming at your whatever device you listen to your podcast on, just like me. It's like, Allison Blair, Ray. You don't know Allison Blair's Dazzler? But he did confess that later on he did remember. Must have been hitting the wine too much, old man. That's right. Old man. Ray, 2 months older than me. That's right. You are an old man. Anyway, back to what... And, again, while covering the Bendis Moon Knight run, Ray also said that Bendis created TikTok. Not so, my good man. TikTok was first created by Ann Nocenti and Brian Postman in Spider-Woman number 50. He also later appeared in Captain America run and other books in the 1980s. He also appeared in Avengers West Coast in the 1990s with the Night Shift. So, yes, all of these appearances way before, like decades before Mr. Bendis would start writing for Marvel Comics. So, I don't know if Ray was just like a little punch drunk or something, covering all this Bendis stuff. Bendis! But I don't know. We forgive you, Ray. But again, yes, I wanted to come into the house that Moon Knight built and set the record straight. And also, sneaky plug. I didn't even tell you I was going to do this, Ray. But yes, fellow loonies, if you enjoy the works of Ray here, or on his other podcast, Last Son of Krypton, or on the 50,000 podcasts he guest stars on constantly, you can come over the last Tuesday of every month on the Capes and Lunatic Sidekicks podcast. Ray is going to join me and some of my fellow co-hosts on talking Ben Reilly, the Scarlet Spider. We just recorded the first episode. We talked about Ben Reilly's first appearance in Amazing Spider-Man 149. And we're going to start working our way through the 90s stuff, and eventually we'll get to some of Ben Reilly's more modern appearances. But again, it's only going to be once a month, so it'll take us a while to get there. But yes, come every Tuesday on the Capes and Lunatic Sidekicks. You'll get Ultimate Spider Cast. But again, the last week of every month, you can hear the great Ray talk to us Americans about some Ben Reilly, the Scarlet Spider, because this man is prolific. This old man is prolific. Yeah, that's right. Again, 2 months older than me, Ray. You're going to be the old man always. All right. Thank you, everyone, for putting up with this. And back to Ray. Take it away, old man.
Yes, thank you there, Phil Muench from Capes and Lunatics, a good friend, fellow podcaster, fellow collective member. Thank you, Phil, for pointing out that I am the older one. Look, we are the same vintage. I am a little bit more tart, if that can somehow be translated from, an allegory of wine. I am a bit older, Phil. Thank you very much. Not necessarily any wiser, but definitely older. I can't take that back. But thank you very much, Phil. Yes, and apologies. I forgot. Phil did mention, he did plug the Scarlet Spider, the Ultimate Spider Cast. So, Loonies, you hear it twice. Go listen to it. It's pretty fun. We've done one episode. We've got another one coming out towards... when does it go? Oh, yeah, we're recording ahead, so it should be a lot of fun. But thank you very much, Phil. And yes, oh my gosh, I did text Phil a couple of days ago, just out of the blue. I was listening to his show, and it just occurred to me who Alison Blair was, because I didn't know it on our show. I mentioned that to Chad, but of course she's Dazzler. I can't believe it. I followed the X-Men in the 90s, not so much now, but her name rung a bell. I just could not place it. But thank you, Phil. He's pointed it out. And of course, TikTok. My gosh, I had no idea. He's very much kind of like a Bendis-y kind of character. with a really weird power and not that interesting a character, so it kind of seemed like a Bendis character, if I'm to be really kind of a bit mean again. But thank you, Phil, for pointing up on that, and TikTok being back to the 80s, a Captain America villain. So Loonies, what I wanted to say, okay, so you are listening right now. I am going to put it down in stone, okay? I'm going to call it the... Marvel has the No Prize Award. I'm going to go for the FAF Award. Okay, so this is our own little thing, FAFF. Okay, if you hear Ray, just me, I'm not going to put it on my other co-hosts. If I somehow faff it up with comic book references or information, I want you to call me up on it, okay? And the first person to do that with a particular point will get an ITK, I think, sticker or a pin. I'm going to fork it out. Why not? It's going to keep me in line, make sure that I'm not going to be forking out hundreds of stickers and pins to everyone, but you'll get an official ITK sticker or pin. Let's make it a competition, eh? Let's make something fun of it. So the FAF Award, just keep an eye out for that. When you're listening to our podcasts and our episodes, if I faff it up, call me out on it and you'll get rewarded. So I'm putting that down in stone. Phil, unfortunately, I've only come up with this now after your corrections. So if you call me up on it again, by all means, sir, I will send you an ITK sticker or a pin. Anyway, so Loonies, there you go, a little bit of housekeeping. Now I want to talk about some current comics that have come out. And of course we are all chomping at the bits for the Age of Khonshu. That is coming out very soon. Now there had been a little bit of talk, a little bit of speculation as to whether Moon Knight appears any earlier than issue 34, which I think has been pitted in the April solicitations for the Age of Khonshu. So Avengers 31 came out this week, and I read it. I thought it was good. I mean, I've been on and off the Avengers by Jason Aaron. I've enjoyed what he's done. I didn't really enjoy the first arc with the Celestials, but I've been very much enjoying the vampire stuff and the Ghost Rider stuff. So this was a one and done. It was Tony Stark set in a million or a billion years ago. He's stuck in time there in the caveman era. It is a little controversial, I think, in the sense that Jason Aaron plays with Howard Stark and in his role and the relationship with Mephisto. So spoilers here, okay, guys. So if you haven't read Avengers 31, please, please tune out for the next three or 4 minutes. Anyway, unfortunately, I had to read because I thought maybe Moon Knight might show up, or it might have some sort of inkling towards the Age of Khonshu. Not really. It does develop, though, Tony Stark and his relationship with Mephisto and Howard Stark, his father. So I guess without giving too many spoilers away, I thought it was interesting. It was about Iron Man, I guess, how he'd survive in that era with very little technology. His vibranium was running out, his suit was becoming useless, so he has to devise other ways to create some armor for himself to stave off what he comes across, cavemen and serpents and monsters and beasts. So yeah, I won't say too much other than there really is nothing with Age of Khonshu. So maybe 32. I mean, we're kind of all thinking that there might be some precursor to the actual Age of Khonshu. So I reckon 32 or definitely 33 will have Moon Knight in it. But we'll just have to wait and see. And that actually brings us to some white noise, our news. So moving right along, the first bit of news is Jason Aaron kind of sits down, has an interview. This was on Newsarama, and he talks about a huge story, which is the Age of Khonshu. It's Moon Knight versus the Avengers. It's a very good read. Go read it yourself. I'm not going to rehash it now. The link is in the show notes. It also has some preview art by Javier Garron, and this is miraculous stuff, really fun stuff. Without giving too many spoilers, because I don't think it does spoil much, it has an image of Doctor Strange up against some mummies, some zombified mummies, and it also has a small little snippet of Moon Knight meeting up with Thor, which is pretty cool, and then there's this awesome one of Moon Knight. Kind of, he's been in bandages as well. He's got the Mr. Knight mask on, and he's meditating or something. And there's Iron Fist coming up to greet him. So, the art looks really cool. It reminds me a little bit of Jason Burrows. Maybe that was because of the horde of mummies, kind of overwhelming Doctor Strange. It reminded me maybe of that Bemis Jason Burrows run, but it looks very cool indeed. And man, Age of Khonshu, this is something that all loonies are waiting for. So very exciting. I can't wait for it. So that's big news. Jason Aaron, his first kind of big interview about it. Go check it out. It's a good read as well. Now, apart from the comic side of things for Moon Knight, there was a bit of news during the week about the production of the TV show for Disney Plus, Moon Knight, and there seem to be differing opinions. So, on the What's on Disney Plus blog, it mentions that Moon Knight will be filmed in November, and despite what had previously been leaked, that there'd be a lot of things shot at Pinewood Studios in the UK, much of the shooting in November will be in Atlanta, the same place where the Winter Soldier, the Falcon and Winter Soldier show is to be shot. So I think this is not that surprising. I mean, I don't think there was ever going to be exclusively shot in the UK. There's always going to have to be some local shots in the US. So it's no surprise that they chose Atlanta for it, because it's a very popular spot, I guess, for shooting TV shows, i.e. The Walking Dead. I know that at least. So that was released. So the other interesting bit is filming will begin in November, so things are rolling on. So we were looking at maybe casting news soon. We know the writers involved, maybe some plots, maybe some set photos down the track. But November's still a little while away, but it's a lot closer than you think. This is also coupled with articles I read in Screen Rant, which speculated shooting to start in fall, which is November's late fall, I believe, in the Northern Hemisphere, because we would be going into spring over here. So that makes sense. So that aligns with the What's on Disney Plus blog. But interestingly enough as well, HN Entertainment says that there would be some shooting of Moon Knight, the TV show, in California. So I'm not sure how true that is. I'm not sure how true any of it really is. But at least it seems that the sources that have approached Screen Rant and the What's on Disney Plus blog seem to align together. I'm not sure the validity of HN Entertainment, nor where they got their source from that shooting is in California. But anyway, that's the news for Moon Knight TV. Okay, Loonies, we are moving now. We're going to head to a break, but before we do that, we are going to go on to the hunt for Khonshu's Golden Sceptre. Yes, this is episode 9, titled The Man of the Stars, and if you can read the episode description, I've deliberately left out a cast member or so. It's a bit of a surprise. I hope you dig it. I'm going to play it now, then we'll go to a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors, and when we come back we'll get into our review. But settle in, Loonies. I don't know if you're in the car or something. I don't know if you're just listening to this, at work with speakers. Go get yourself a good pair of headphones, nestle into a nice comfy chair, get yourself a hot cuppa or get yourself a nice drop, and savor this. This is a lot of fun, so I'm going to play it now. Enjoy The Man of the Stars, episode 9.
So let me get this straight. Shortly after we left Bosco Verde, Dustin and Josh may have found a lead which may or may not shed light on who's looking for the sceptre.
Yep, they're at one of their safe houses now lying low. They've got one of the local crime lords with them from the Culo Grandes cartel, and they're requesting extraction now.
I don't know, Ray. This whole operation's a bit of a dog's dinner. We've got no idea where the sceptre is. We don't know if what Justin and Josh have found will yield any answers. We can't find Chad since we lost contact with the ITK Jumbuck in the other void a few weeks ago. Tommy at least is still feeding us leads, but Connor's disappeared ever since they staked out the Chilean embassy.
Maybe I can help.
Ugh. For the love of... Where the hell did you come from? We're sitting in a booth.
None of that matters now. I know where KHONSHU is. I was just with them. We ran into some trouble.
Trouble?
Yeah, the kind of trouble that goes by the name of Sobek.
Damn it. I was hoping this whole fiasco wouldn't involve deities. I guess I just hoped it was someone knocking off antiques or some crazy, obsessed cult.
So, you were with KHONSHU. Where are they now, Noel? Are they okay?
They're perfectly fine. We had a little help along the way. Once this flashback music begins and they cue the googly goggloo flashback sound effect, I'll start recounting our tale. KHONSHU and I ran into Sobek, one of Set's minions and the god of the crocodiles. We counted on a fight for our lives, but what we didn't count on was getting a little help.
You're all going to die.
Why am I,
Hold steady, we got this.
What the... What's that light up there? It's like a meteor coming down straight for us.
I suggest we take cover now.
Chad? As in the power of Chad? Is that
You can't stop me, man of the stars. The orb is mine. You will die like the rest.
Come get some.
Whoa.
That's right, Chad's gone cosmic.
Noel, could you take us to KHONSHU and Chad?
Of course.
If what he's saying is true, despite having the cosmic power of Chad, we'll need to call up more loonies. Sobek and the other agents of Set are now involved.
You're right about getting more help. Even though Chad had been upgraded to some cosmic level shit, it wasn't enough in the end. Sobek got away with the Orb of Horus.
No!
Shit. We've got to get to Khonshu's sceptre as fast as we can.
With the Staff of Osiris already destroyed, and now the Orb of Horus in the hands of Sobek, we're running out of time.
Right. Let's head off with Noel, Rebecca. We can swing by downtown. I know some loonies who may be of assistance. One of them tinkers with some high-grade tech. Could give us a bit of an edge. The other's always handy in a pickle. They're not powered up like Chad or anything, but I think we'll need everyone we can get.
If we're talking big hitters, we may do well to moonjet over to the UK. I think I may know a guy.
Right, biscuits, brew, bread, chicken. I think I'm good to go. Oh, now pickles. Where did I keep the pickles? Ah, there. We'll just let that pot of tea steep for a little bit. Wonder who that could be.
Hi, my name's Lolly. Care to make a donation to the Girl Guides?
Well, hello there, young lady. Why, of course. Always willing to support the leaders of tomorrow. What have you got there?
Well, there are badges for 50p, or some club pens for £1, or letter openers for £1.50.
Well, they certainly look very, very splendid, and for a good cause too. A lolly, is that blood? Why is there blood on that letter opener?
Well, little girl did put up a bit of a struggle.
Lolly?
The brat started screaming when I held her down.
On second thoughts, do you know what? I think I might just pass on the donation. I don't think I have any change.
But, Doctor, I don't need any money.
I just want your soul!
Well, Lolly, unfortunately you gave the game away the moment you rang my doorbell. What sort of master of the mystic arts would I be if I didn't have some defense spells cast on my door? Alarms which you tripped when you placed your slimy fingers on my buzzer. You interrupted me from my turkey brie sandwich, my pot of tea, and my wagon wheel biscuit. And I can't have that at all. Bloody hell, 5 demons in 4 days? So what is going on here?
This episode is sponsored by Podcorn, the marketplace for podcast sponsorships. Do you have a brand you'd like to share with the world? Or are you an up-and-coming podcaster looking for sponsors? Why not consider Podcorn, a new platform that connects podcasters with brands in a collaborative and flexible manner. It allows podcasts of any size to easily connect with sponsors, as well as giving brands another voice in which to advertise. So alongside host-read ads, brands now have the opportunity to promote their product via interviews, giveaways, or reviews on podcasts. This allows brands more of a direct connection to the listeners and their target audience. Having used Podcorn as a podcaster myself, I've found the opportunity to expand our show into the night too good to ignore. So check out the link in the show notes for further details. Podcorn, the next generation for native podcast advertising. Yes, welcome back, Loonies. This is Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast, episode 135. And just before that break, you heard episode 9 of the Hunt for Khonshu'S Golden Sceptre. So a bit of a reveal there, a new character. I'd like to tip my hat off to John Doc Harrison, from TV podcast industries. He's stepped in, and he's a new character in our slowly building universe, Dr. Hex. We've got our own Master of the Mystic Arts. So things are building, a team is building up against the might of Set. So a lot of fun there. And also another big shout out to Molly Southgate. She did an absolutely fantastic job as Lolly, the girl guide turned demon zombie. A lot of fun. Thank you so much, everyone. Noel, Rebecca, Connor, Adam, Chad as well for that. It was a lot of fun. Anyway, Loonies, we are now looking at our LUNAR-PICK review. It's a classic run review. It is Volume 1, Issue 11 by Doug Moench, penciler and inker Bill Sienkiewicz, colorist Christie Scheele, letterer Janice, Chiang and Rick Parker, and editor Denny O'Neill. This was released in September 1981. It's called To Catch a Killer, and It's available on Marvel Unlimited. You can find it still in Comixology or the Marvel store, digital store. It's still available on floppy. You've just got to check your bargain bins or your back issue catalogue. And I'm reading, I've read it, and I will be flicking through it on my Epic Collection, Volume 2, Shadows of the Moon. I do love my Epic Collections. I think I've become a bit of an addict. I'm glad I've got all the Moon Knight ones, because a couple of them are hard to find now. Anyway, so what we do, listeners, for those that don't know, I will go through a synopsis, a bare bones, telling you what the story entails in case you haven't read it and you just want to understand the story. I will then go into some aspects, and this is writing, art, themes, characterizations, and references, and I'll cap it off with a moon rating. And I think it's becoming more and more regular. I will be tapping into the Khonshu rating system. So, yeah, so that's pretty fun. We've got a bit of feedback as well. It'd be good to discuss. But I'll get into the bare bones. So this is courtesy of Wiki, and I shall read it. Let me just clean up a few things on my screen. Okay, I will read it now for you. To catch a killer. Following an increase in cocaine traffic, Moon Knight breaks up a drug deal beneath a Manhattan bridge. He tells the two men he's only interested in the big boy. One of them, named Creed, attacks Moon Knight with surprising strength and then flees. Moon Knight knocks the other into the river and calls Frenchie to pick him up, dismissing the two crooks as strictly small fry. Back at Grant's mansion, Moon Knight changes to Stephen Grant. A woman arrives looking for Mark Spector. Grant, who is also Spectre, learns her name is Isabel Crystal and summons Frenchie. She is Frenchie's true love. She leaves a package with him for safekeeping. In 10 days, she will return for it and for him. After she leaves, Frenchie tells Marlene what happened. Long ago, he and Crystal had an affair in France, but the strength of their passion frightened Crystal. She left him to find herself and to forget. Frenchie also tried to forget by becoming a mercenary. They met once more in Africa, where she was working for an agency of the French government and aiding a rebellion. 6 days later, they learn that Crystal has been murdered. Frenchie opens the package, which contains $250,000 in cash. The box is from Ritter's in New Orleans. Jake Lockley, who is also Grant, investigates. According to Crawley, Cajun Creed killed her for failing to deliver a shipment of cocaine. Lockley deduces that she traced the cocaine pipeline from France to New Orleans, went undercover in Creed's outfit and delivered a shipment to New York. She took the payoff to Frenchie, intending to wrap up the case, quit her job, and keep the money as a nest egg. Frenchie swears revenge. Mardi Gras in 2 weeks will make excellent cover. Once in New Orleans, they disguise themselves. Frenchie as a pirate and Moon Knight as Moon Knight. Eventually, Frenchie finds Creed in a bar in the French Quarter. On a bet, he's holding a bench over his head with 4 women sitting on the bench. Frenchie steps up behind him and says, "Creed, Isabel sends her love." Creed drops the bench. Out on the street, Moon Knight sees Frenchie and Creed burst out of the bar. He throws a crescent dart to disarm Creed. Creed throws Moon Knight into a crowd and flees. A clown keeps Moon Knight from pursuing, but after some persuasion, says that Creed's lair is a warehouse at Ursuline's and Rampart. Frenchie has overheard the information because he's gone when Moon Knight turns around. Moon Knight finds a warehouse and inside crates full of cocaine. Frenchie confronts Creed, but is surprised by a Confederate who shoots him. Moon Knight drops the Confederate with his truncheon and goes after Creed. Now prepared for Creed's strength, Moon Knight dodges a few blows, but Creed catches him in a bear hug from behind and squeezes. Unable to break the hold, Moon Knight uses a double-barreled over-the-shoulder punch. The fight goes out for Creed. He confesses that things happened exactly as Lockley figured. He caught Crystal on her way to the French embassy and tortured her for 5 days. All she would say was that she was planning to retire with Frenchie. Moon Knight is about to punch him when Frenchie puts a hand on his arm and says, "No, Mark, let me." Swacked. 2 days later, in a cemetery outside Paris, Frenchie puts a rose on Crystal's grave. "I am ready now," he tells Spectre. "I have made the break." So, loonies, yes, that was To Catch a Killer, Volume 1, Issue 11, massively written by Doug Moench and skillfully penciled by Bill Sienkiewicz. Now, overall impressions, I found this issue rather enjoyable. It was a nice one and done, and it's always good to return to Moench and Sienkiewicz, and there's a huge level of bias here. I do love the classic run, and I love seeing these little bits from Sienkiewicz, which kind of shows his art elevated beyond other typical artists as well. There are just little things. So if I jump to discussing about the art, a lot of it, he seems to... There are a lot of, I guess, references that he uses with people's poses and their faces, which is not uncommon with comic book artists, but he seems to flourish with it. And the setting that Moench does with the Mardi Gras and with the band, there's a beautiful page. There's a beautiful page in it where there's a marching band and they go through. And just the way that Sienkiewicz draws it is brilliant. I'm seeing if I can pick it up here. Yeah, so for our Patronis, you can probably see a bit of it there with the tuba. Some guys holding an umbrella. They're all dancing and swaying in the street. It really does catch a vibe of the carnival feel. Also, Sienkiewicz, what he does, and I love it, his this technique he uses to show, I guess, the scattering of light, filtering through stuff or bouncing off stuff and coming towards you, the viewer. So again, you get it on that page. Oh, I've just lost it. You get it on that page with the Mardi Gras with the sun kind of filtering through the trees. There it is over there. And later on with Moon Knight's gauntlets, the light bouncing off it. Brilliant use here. Look, I mean, have you ever seen an artist do that? He's really created. He's starting to really create his own style here, and this is like chalk and cheese from his earlier stuff, which was heavily influenced by Neil Adams. He's doing his own inking. His layouts are quite different. Moon Knight's always looking good, but his close-up facial expressions of there's Cajun Creed, just really, really beautiful art as well. Some of the colouring for this, for me, it seemed a little lackluster. I don't know, maybe because I was focusing more on the art, the pencils and the inks. So the colour didn't pop out to me as much as some of the colorists' work do on other issues and other runs of Moon Knight. But art-wise, I think it was... it's just interesting to see Sienkiewicz kind of develop as an artist himself, and you can definitely see that in this issue. Bouncing back to the plot, look, I've got just some bullet points here. Basically, as I mentioned in the synopsis, the woman from Frenchie's past returns. She's embroiled in some drug trafficking. She dies after meeting Mark and Frenchie swears revenge. Look, this is what I think they call these as fridging. I mean, she's very much used to propel the story forward by her death coming about. This is like a typical example. And at the end, Isabel is redeemed as after it's revealed, despite what Mark had said, that she was trying to come clean and she was trying to do the right thing. She wasn't trying to run away with the money and just dump it. She was eventually going to go to the authorities. That was revealed with Cajun Creed later on. So a pretty, I wouldn't say simple, because what Moench does is he frames that story of this drug trafficking, this crime, and interweaves it with a bit of Frenchie's history, a bit of his origin, which is interesting. So we get a little bit of an insight into Frenchie's origin now. Like we do know of his origin. It was outlined briefly in issue 1 because he's very much a supporting cast to Mark Spector, but we know he's a mercenary, but we now understand why he went into the mercenary game. It was purely for this love that he had for Isabel Crystal, similar to how she kind of left. It's kind of very bit, I'll put down here for a theme, it's very much a tragic love tale, isn't it? They loved each other so much that they couldn't hack it, so they went apart. Love is a crazy thing, but Yes, they had to find themselves first. They wanted to forget, as I mentioned in the bare bones about not being able to handle this love. So Frenchie goes to the mercenary ways, and Isabel does. She works for a French agency and a rebellion. Quite interesting stuff. And so with this becomes I wouldn't say the whole thing at the core is about revenge, because a lot of the story is very evenly told. It's very much I was about to say that the first bit is an introduction to the criminals, to Creed. Then we get the backstory introduction of Isabel Crystal, and the backstory of Frenchie is the middle part. And it's just the third act, really, that has Frenchie vying for revenge, and it kind of tying up with the criminals that Moon Knight had come across at the Manhattan Bridge. So, not as a simple story as it would seem, but Moench does well to balance all these aspects. He doesn't overplay the Frenchie origin. That's told quite concisely in a flashback. And you could argue as well, I guess, with the writing, nothing too flamboyant happens with the action. But then again, with much of Moench, and we know that he loved the non-powered superheroes, there's nothing flash that happens. Moon Knight, basically, he's a fist punchy guy, and he uses crescent darts and truncheons. That's it, but nothing flash. He's a good fighter. I mean, he takes on Creed, who's superhuman in strength, but there's no bells or whistles. There's nothing extraordinary what he does. Just a guy in a suit, really, just who can fight really well. So your writing wise, I found, that's how I found it a very taut story, and there was enough to it to keep interest going. The dialogue wasn't too heavy, I thought, which is good. I mean, it's synonymous with the time. 1981, 80s comics are very different, or late 70s comics are very different from today's comics. So if you're unfamiliar with comics of that era, you may find it a little wordy, but compared to most of the comics of that time, it's not any less, any more so. Also, again, with art, I've got another note here. Just some of the things that Sienkiewicz comes up with, and I'm sure it is him, it's not Moench. There's this thing where Frenchie's retelling, his tale with Isabel Crystal and their love, and then how she eventually left him. And the way I was reading it was, okay, so this is in the script, and this is what Moench did. And so it's really up to Sienkiewicz to show that. And how do you show that? How do you show someone leaving someone else? The typical thing that comes to mind first is that you probably have a panel of Frenchie picking up a letter or something to show that Isabel has left, or I don't know, an empty house or something. But what I really like is, I just found this one. This is a small detail, but I just found it really impressive. That last panel there, again, Patroni's can see, to show that someone's left Frenchie. It's a silhouette of Frenchie. You don't see much detail, but you know he's sad because his shoulders and his head is bowed. But it's framed with some empty coat hangers, and it's framed with the door of the closet and the railing that comes on top of the. So I think it's just really an economy of art to actually sell you. They say a picture paints 1,000 words, and really that does embody, the feeling of Frenchie, what has happened, all in just one small panel. So again, just those little points really, I just love how Sienkiewicz does it. And again, I'm talking about these pictures again. Patroni's can see that. Really nice picture there of Isabel Crystal crying, referenced. He plays with ultra close-ups, kind of there as well. And then there's this also, and again, you've got to bear in mind, say how cinema is around this time, 1981, and what they do. It is, with the effects that they can do. I mean, sure, they could have done it in the 80s as well, but I find it to be done in comics to be quite good as well. So the top two panels here, You got Frenchie recounting a tale with Isabel Crystal walking away through the door. His profile remains the same, and it kind of morphs into him recounting with Marlene in the background. So just a couple of examples of how Sienkiewicz really does lay out his art, and how it works really well with his drawing. So to go into themes, I put in here, I mentioned there are a couple here. It's that tragic love between Frenchie and Isabel Crystal. They can't fulfill their love. They both kind of were pushed apart because they were scared by it, and they both went their different ways. It's also partly Frenchie's origin. I mean, as I mentioned, you get to see why he entered the French Foreign Legion and became a mercenary. It was because of Isabel Crystal, which makes me think I'd love to see a bit more of Isabel Crystal. I know she died in this issue, but they really could have made more of her, I think, because she's such an integral part of Frenchie's backstory. Anyway, another underlying theme, obviously, through the third act, as I mentioned, is this story of revenge. Frenchie gets really mad, and we see it, and I've got a note here on characterization. Frenchie actually gets told off by Mark, or Moon Knight, when they're in the Mardi Gras. Frenchie being a little obsessive with his behaviour, and he should kind of cool it a little, because he wants to keep on looking for Cajun Creole. And Moon Knight kind of gets annoyed and goes, okay, let's keep on looking then. You don't stop, do you? So I found it funny how Mark thought he was obsessive, considering the very nature of Mark Spector himself, kind of calling the kettle black there. But Frenchie has been, look, this is an early 1981 version. We do see later in the Mark Spector Moon Knight run how obsessive Frenchie can be. So that could be that is consistent with his trait when he, again, I think I mentioned it last episode, when he wanted to track down and wreak revenge for upon Killer Shrike, who kind of crippled Frenchie back then. So the story of revenge and the theme as well. Again, I wanted to point out this thing of fridging. It's now become a term in modern day, but it's very much apparent here. Isabel Crystal really is the catalyst for the story, and her death, and her torture and her death is the thing that propels Frenchie to tell about his story, to dig deeper into this whole cocaine trafficking, to catch up with Cajun Creole. So, it's one of the signs of the times, I guess, but I found it very obvious in this, considering what we're more aware of these days. With characterization, I noticed Moon Knight still made a few jokes here and there, which is pretty cool, but the difference between him here making jokes and him being a goofy idiot in, say, Damnation, I think they're very different. I mean, he can still be a little smart ass like he is here, cracks a few jokes, but he's still kind of got that presence of an intense, serious fighter. Whereas I did find in the likes of, say, Contagion, and to an extent a little bit, I mean, although it was dialed down a bit in Serpent War, he becomes a little bit more wisecracking, where we see here he's not really wisecracking. Only there's that one bit where he punches the clown and says, like, keep the change. I mean, that's very, that's, what does he say? Here's your change. Yeah. We'll get to that later. I know Josh likes to talk about that panel, but apart from that, he doesn't joke around all the time. I mean, he's pretty much a serious kind of character, but he doesn't mind the odd remark. Maybe he's kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger then, with his one-liners. Marlene mentions Mark hardly sleeps as well, so we get an insight into how driven and how obsessive Mark is himself as Moon Knight, and his mission to, be the avatar of vengeance. He prevents, he doesn't sleep as much as he should, and Marlene calls him out on it. Character I show had mentioned it as well. There's a little bit of jealousy on Marlene's part as well when Isabel Crystal comes, but that's quickly snuffed when it's revealed that she and Frenchie are the item rather than she and Mark. Mark has no bar of it, and he kind of just shuts Marlene down. Not now, Marlene, he says, where she's just merely asking the question. Also as well, I guess we are looking at a different time and a different era. Characterizations of Mark. He's not gone down that road of losing all his friends, losing his family, being crippled himself. I'm talking about the Houston run, where he becomes very dark, and he's capable of, crashing a plane into the side of a building or ripping a guy's face off. He's not at that point yet. This is more classic Moon Knight, where he's not just a bloodthirsty killer, but he still has this very strong moral of doing right. And he pulls Frenchie back as well, so it shows that he has a level of controlling his temper and not overstepping the line. So again, a very classic take on Moon Knight, which Moench is forming. Frenchie's shown as more passionate, as more depth. I mean, previously Frenchie's just been seen as the guy who's repairing the chopper, or flying the chopper, or he hasn't been doing that much really. If we're looking at issues 1 to 11, he does fly in and help Mark. He's very much a support character, but we see a little bit more of him here, how passionate he can be. So we get a bit more insight into his character, which I think Moench is trying to grow. And also, finally, we get a little appearance of Crawley as well. So it's always fun to see Crawley and Jenna's diner. We don't see Jenna or Rick or Ray, but we see Crawley, and what surprised me, but hey, he's meant to be the guy that knows everything. Crawley dishes all the goss on Cajun Creed. He seems to know much about him, how he's a bit of a legend around the traps in New Orleans, and the sort of business he kind of conducts, with cocaine trafficking. So again, Crawley very much the person that will give the information to Mark, and it was good to see. We saw this was very much a Mark Spectre issue, but it was good to see. We see a bit of Jake Lockley with his fake moustache going in, getting the word on the street there from Crawley. Okay, so that was in characterization. So we're pretty nearly done. The only things I had were references. There was a little reference to Moon Knight issue 1, with the origin of Frenchie and Mark meeting in Africa as mercenaries. So that was told in Frenchie's flashback. So that's a little reference to issue 1, and there was also references, I believe, to issues 8 and 10 of this run, because it's a bit of a running thing. We know in issue 8, Frenchie crashes the mooncopter, and he crashes it into the river, and from 8 onwards, Frenchie's been trying to repair and build this new mooncopter, and he does so in issue 10, but by this issue 11, Mark's making mention, the engine sounds still a bit rough, do you think you can smooth it out? So I like that. This running continuity that Moench does of it's not forgotten, like that detail of the mooncopter. We're seeing progress of that in the Moench stories, so very cool indeed. Also as well, I mean, I wouldn't say references to other runs, but we see his pool secret entrance to his mansion again. I wonder how long it takes before they get rid of that. I mean, that appeared a few times. It appeared in the Spectacular Spider-Man as well, issues 21 and 22, I think, with Cyclone and Spider-Man, when Moon Knight brings him Spider-Man to the Grant Mansion as well. That was done before this 1980 series. So we still get a lot of the classic elements, again, referenced here. I mean, so overall, as mentioned, I did enjoy this. I thought it was pretty cool. Yeah, so I would give it, judging by KHONSHU'S rating system, I'd give it a firm 6.5 out of 10. So that is something in the vicinity of a, what is it called again, Connor? Getting Smol Moon. It's in between that and a solid round boy. So 6.5. I know Phil. Phil pull me up on it. He says, you always give it around a 7. I do hover around there. Look, because it's not something extraordinary. So now I'd start giving 8s, 9s if something was really good. And if something was just passable, I'd start to give it 5. So 6.5 is starting to get there. It was an enjoyable read. I did not find this a chore at all. But it's certainly not something that, it's a one and done as well. It's something that I wouldn't, read every year or something like that. I'd be happy to read it, but I'm not going to return to it again and again. It's just a nice little issue. If anything, as I mentioned, I'd love to see Isabel Crystal back somehow, or at least retconned. I know Frenchie's persuasion has changed since then, but I think it would be good. It's still valid. His past love with her. I think that would be really cool to still introduce into any future titles. So 6.5 there, Loonies. I hope you enjoy it. Now, I've got a couple of bits of feedback. One of them related to this issue, and it was posted up on our Facebook group. I put up a discussion thread, and this is from Josh Johnson, who unfortunately wasn't able to join us for this episode, but he's written in. And Josh says, firstly, the phases of the moon lined up perfectly for this issue because Mardi Gras just finished up this week. Overall, a solid issue. I did like seeing some of Frenchie's past, however. It did seem like a generic, how can we give a side character a story? Interesting. Long lost love resurfaces plot that's been reused dozens of times in comics. It does feel like this is a sort of Uncle Ben story for Moon Knight, because if he'd had stopped Creed at the start of the story, he'd never have brutally ice-picked Isabel to death. Oh, interesting point there, Josh. I did not make that connection, but it is one of those missed opportunities, isn't it? Speaking of that opening fight, Mooney must have put a lot of strength into that Crescent dart throw, considering it pierced through a big pack of coke and a thick wad of bills. Maybe it was really sharp. The action, I think, is pretty good throughout, and it was nice to see swashbuckling Frenchie accompany Mark in the field. I also love how, once they're in New Orleans, amongst all the partying and dressing up, Moon Knight just walks around in his costume like it's nothing. Yeah, a nice little touch as well. He doesn't have to dress up. A good one-shot story, but not a super standout one. I'd rate it a Waning gibbous, a 7 out of 10. The best part of the issue is when it's revealed when Moon Knight threatens to rip a thug's face off his skull, about 25 years prior to him actually doing it to Bushman. I had a nice loud laugh when I came to that part. Thank you very much, Josh Johnson. Yeah, that is funny. I had to reread it, look back, because we were chatting, and Josh said you'll pick this bit, and it's pretty funny. And it passed me the first time, so I went back and I trawled through the issue, and I saw it, and it's like, yes, he's wanting to rip a guy's face off. I get it now. So who knows? Maybe Houston picked it up from this very issue. Maybe that was the kernel that made him decide to have Bushman's face ripped off. But thank you very much, Josh, for that. Nothing from our Facebook page or Twitter or Instagram, but there was something from YouTube that came in early in the week. And again, this is from CMK7, beep boop, beep boop, boop, also known as Chris Kelly. Hi Chris, a big shout out to Chris. This was on episode 133, and this was the episode Avatars of Vengeance that I hosted with Rick and with Joey Megaman, or Mega Joey. Anyway, Chris says about that episode. Great review on this. Nice job, guys. It's such a relief to hear this review. I was so close to downloading this game just to play Moon Knight. I even went to the point of researching setting up the mobile emulator to play on my desktop because I'm not into these types of games on my phone. After tracking it for a while, I came across the same conclusion, seeing the spam of only a few moves over and over again. Game's graphic looks great though. Yeah, thanks, Chris. Yeah, I mean, you share our sentiments. I like still playing it every now and again, and I don't mind playing on the phone, basically because I play when I'm on the go, and there's, there's some time to kill. Like I mentioned, I'm not a true gamer in a sense, but I do like dabbling every now and again. But yeah, I agree. The game's graphics are great. So, yes, totally agree. Anyway, Loonies, I think that will wrap up a slightly shorter episode. It's just your High Priest of Khonshu Rey here. So, yeah, we might as well wrap up now. Next phase is going to be a waxing gibbous. So that means it's our Over the Moon trade arc review. And I had a little thought about this. I had a little think about what to do. And so I'm trying to veer away from Moon Knight solo titles, because we're going to cover their single issues anyway. So I was looking for more kind of obscure Moon Knight appearances, and I think I've come up with one. I haven't read this, so it's going to be good. It's a 3-issue arc. It's from Hulk, issues 7 to 9 of 2008. It has Moon Knight in it, amongst a few other characters. Should be a lot of fun. From the looks of it, I can't vouch. Oh, I'm going to be careful. I don't want to do the old faff award. Anyway, it's Hulk, numbers 7 to 9, 2008. We'll be reviewing that next week. Should be a lot of fun. As always, I'd like to make mention we are part of the Collective. So a whole network of podcasts. We all have the same visions and the same kind of goals for what we do. A lot of them are character based, a lot of them are geek culture based. So a big shout out to you can watch, because they're on YouTube as well, like I Am Your Target Demographic. Great guys there. Adam, a big shout out. He's done some voice work for our serial drama. We Have a Hulk. They have some great interviews. They review movies, TV shows, and comics as well. And of course, as I mentioned, the Signal of Doom. Those guys are still burning bright as I speak. They're recording not that far away from where I am as well. So yeah, we are the Collective. Just check us out. You can hashtag the Collective Net on Twitter, and that should come up with stuff about the Collective. Or you can check out the Collective, the Twitter handle at Collective Pods, I believe it is. Otherwise, just check the link in this episode. That should take you straight to a directory with all the shows there, so you can just go straight to their websites. You can contact us. We love hearing from you. Please drop us a line on email, itkmoonnight@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Discord. Get Vocal now. I'm on Get Vocal as we speak. We have a website on Libsyn and WordPress. As mentioned as well, we have a Patreon page. I do recommend that you guys check it out. Consider dropping a bit of coin there. It is very much appreciated, and there are definitely incentives for doing so. And on Podchaser as well, so check out that too. I'd also like to thank again our sponsors, Hello Headphones, and our sponsor for this episode, Podcorn. It's great to have sponsors on our show. Please check out both Hello Headphones with the code ITK Moon Knight. You can shop on Hello Headphones online and get 10% off. That's an incentive, so please check them out. If it's to enhance your listening of our audio drama, then go ahead, do it. I'd do it. It'd be good. And Podcorn as well, a great platform where podcasts and advertisers can come together and help each other out, collaborate. iTunes rating. That's a bit of a blur. iTunes ratings. If you like, please give us an iTunes rating. It always helps. The more ratings we get, the more we get out there. Look, we're bracing ourselves, loonies. We have the Age of Khonshu, then we have the TV show later on. I'm hoping that we see a lot more loonies. I want us, our community, to be the place that Moon Knight fans can come to congregate and to share their fandom and to have a very harmonious community where we kind of encourage and support each other. So if you can please rate us, that would be great. We'll shout it out on the show, why not? And yeah, we'll be forever grateful. And finally, yep, all good podcast catches. Oh, I'm starting to kind of mumble now. So anything that you're listening to now, but Spotify as well, we're on that, iHeartRadio, on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, yeah, you name it. I listen to my podcasts on Podcast Republic on my Android phone. That's a really good app. So I believe there are other ones as well, Podcast Addict, all of that. We're all on there. Check us out. Should be a lot of fun. Anyway, loonies, I think that's it for me. Be good to one another. Enjoy your comics. Keep reading, and as we always say, may Khonshu watch over the denizens of the night.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.